All right, Bears, hope you're having a great spring break. I'm not sure if this will post before we're done with spring break or not, but I am in Mesa Verde near Durango, Colorado, and Cortez, Colorado. Coming here to explore the Native American cliff dwellings, very famous place. So let's do this Mesa Verde virtual field trip with Mr. Downs. All right, Bears, here we are. It's like a city down there. I'll try to zoom in on a couple pictures. It's closed. Usually you can go down and walk around in there with tours, but it's closed because it's winter and construction. But it's pretty amazing. We'll find out when we go look at some of our CERs, fist essays, on some signs, how long they lived here. It was just after the BC period, about 500 AD, I believe, up until about maybe 1500. Maybe they lived here 1,000 years. Where were they before that? Not sure. We know they migrated south into New Mexico, probably for warmer climates or following the herds when they left here. It's pretty cool. Get us a trusty, dusty guide. I bet there's a lot of good writing in here. Let's take a look. All right, guys, so just, and gals, bears, look at this. So here's a pamphlet. It starts off with geography, our grapes, just like we talk about when we study any culture. And you can see all of these trees, very similar, even though we're talking almost 2,000 years ago, probably look just like this. Of course, some of these trees were smaller, some come and go, but very similar trees. And they would use these trees for tools and even harvesting for eating. And there's different berry brushes in here, and that's our geography and our tools. And then here we have, ladies were used to fill jars for storage and use. So they had ladles, and the check dams helped collect soil and surface water for small pockets and ropes. So there we have our technology, our accomplishments. And of course, one of the main accomplishments is these cliff dwellings. Let's get down there and look. Dun, 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 dun. See if we can look back in there. Sadly, the trail is closed, or we'd be climbing around those ruins. But we are going to go check out some other ones closer up. But there you go, a good close-up of their dwellings in these kind of like caves, outcroppings. Sorry here. Very cool. So they'd be roaming around here. We're going back in time right now, thousands of years. Petroglyphs. The trail can be challenging for inexperienced hikers. Always read your signs. Let's do it. We are experienced hikers. Let's do this. That's pretty wild. You get your big epic cliffs over there, and then you have these smaller ones. Look at those little houses. Who was living in those? Meanwhile, you had these bigger, almost like cities. And then out there in the woods, there's all kinds of villages. We're going to go check those out right now. All right, Bears, here's our first stop. Permanent homes. That's obviously accomplishments. Show the weaving. They entered to the top, they think, sometimes. Notice our CER introduction. And here's the remains. 500 CE, Common Era. First settlers before they built the cliffs. All right, Bears, it's a little bustly up here today, a little windy. 5,000 people lived up here, 5,000 pueblos. Check this out. This is the stuff they traded. Trading meaning economics with people from Arizona, New Mexico, from far away. They would trade. So we've got a little economics from our grapes. Oh yeah. Wear your jacket today, guys. There's one of the cliff dwellings right over there. Probably can't see it on here, but we're going to go see another one right now. Here we go. It's the tallest tower in the whole Mesa that they discovered. It's tall. See how it goes? So they all live down there out of these winds that we're dealing with right now. Pretty cool. The Pueblo, ancestral Pueblos is the preferred name. I just learned that. One thing about culture. I just learned something new. A lot of people call all these ancient Native Americans the Anasazi because they seemingly disappeared when other, like the Navajos and cowboys and Spanish came in. It just seemed like they disappeared. But now, like always in history, you find new information, and now they can trace it to the Pueblo Indians that have moved into New Mexico, down to maybe northern Arizona, the Pueblo Indians that still exist today. So they didn't just disappear. They migrated. Why? Drought, lack of water. They can tell that from the trees. They can check the trees, and from the trees they can see that during the time period that these people migrated, there was a big major drought. And so we've seen society, we've seen accomplishments with their houses and their buildings, we've seen trading, that they traded with other people, economics, society, all kinds of society, and their clothing, the baskets. Let's see what we can find next. All right, team, here we have a great example of primary and secondary sources. We've got a pit here, highly developed, later in time from that first pit. This pit that we're looking at right here was about 100 years, 150 years after the one we looked at the very beginning. Pretty much the same, slightly deeper, but not much. But notice some of the stonework. Then we come over into the newer age. Another 100 years later, they're going deeper, a little more adaptable, a little more living, stonework on top. And now let's talk about the secondary source information. So remember, we're looking at primary sources right here. This is the real deal. That's an archaeological find. We can study, we can learn what they built with, we can find their tools, we can look at their baskets. Now let's take a look at a secondary source. I'm going to flip the camera around. So obviously an artist rendering. Notice our CERs, our fist essays. Notice some commentary, just like you guys write in your slides. But obviously this is an artist rendering of what they dressed like, what they looked like, little kids, the dogs. Secondary source. Okay, notice square, deeper, and then finally round, a whole different type of engineering design. So now we're dialing into ancient engineering. And if you look at here, a lot of corn referenced, and then this is a citation, a quote from a Laguna Pueblo person. Throughout the year, kivas are used for the same purposes that they were in the time of our ancestors. Our religious leaders go into the kivas for days and weeks at a time. To prepare kivas are used for our religious dances, ceremonies, celebrations, and annual gatherings such as Feast of Days, sacred. Now we have religious clues. So now we've got the religion, geography, religion, accomplishments. What comes next? Politics. I haven't seen politics yet. Haven't heard anything about chiefs or anything like that. Let's see if we can find some politics at our next stop. We've got economics with the trade, all kinds of society. Remember, society's everything, social structure. We could get that from some of the pictures. So we're going to look for some more social structure, hierarchy of people, and some politics. Let's check that out at the next stop. All right, check it out. I've been doing some research. It looks like they passed the clan name down through the women. So the clan name comes from the mother down. So that's a little social structure there. The men usually would go out and hunt. And now check out this, one of the coolest ones we've seen. Look how deep this is. A little more advanced. A fire pit. Notice maybe a chimney or a way to ventilate. And look at the structure of the stones. Way more advanced than the last stop. It was fascinating. I'm listening to a little tape recording of a Pueblo, the Native American Pueblo ancestor from these very people. So she's telling the story. So I guess it was forbidden for them to write things down. Remember when we talk about the Hebrew traditions, they wrote everything down. They considered it God's word. It was very important that they had every dot and tittle of that Torah was written down, right, Lena? And you did not want to mess with it. They copied it. Meanwhile, these ancient cultures, they didn't write anything down. All oral traditions. Now check this out. A little timeline for us here. Let's switch the camera. Here we are, timeline, semi-nomadic, 550 CE, secondary source showing us how they lived. Basically all the way back for 12,000 years. They looked pretty similar to that. Then they started with the pit houses. Then they come into single story, multi-story, and then the cool cliff dwellings about 1200 CE. And we'll tie that into what we're learning about in ancient Rome. All right, here we go. Big reveal. This is around 1200 cliff dwellings started. The ancestral Pueblo people lived in this area for centuries. Archaeologists don't fully understand what prompted the final migration, but most believe drought. So we kind of saw cliff dwellings like this right at the beginning. I don't know if you can see them. I'm going to flip the camera around. Here we go. So here's our wide shot. Probably can't see it, but look how deep that is over there. Incredible. So they're living in this canyon. Thousands and thousands of people. Pretty amazing. There's a really cool one over there. Let's see if we can zoom in. I don't know if you can see that. We saw the one at the beginning. I'm trying to hold the camera still. So they obviously were very advanced from the last little houses, which was all on these prairies or mesas, like a prairie on a hill. That's what a mesa is. Lots of green. And so on that flat land, they had their houses, and then they became more advanced and started developing their cliff dwellings. So just an amazing, amazing sight. Let's explore. A little bit shadowy down there, guys. I'm talking kind of quiet because a lot of people are around. I didn't want to disrupt them. There's the ones we were just looking at. Look at that. Why live in the cliffs? Classic slideshow here. Cliff dwelling life. Talks about the oak tree house, one of the larger cliff dwellings. It explains the plazas, the middens, the retaining walls, the storage rooms. There are about 600 alcove sites in Mesa Verde National Park. About 90% contain fewer than 11 rooms. At least 1/3 are simply one-room structures, probably storage rooms for a nearby cliff dwelling. There are only about a dozen cliff dwellings that contain 40 or more rooms. 40 or more rooms. So that's a lot of people live there. And they had the kivas, T-shaped doorways. The purpose of the T-shape remains a mystery. It may have been symbolic, eased entry into outer rooms, or signified public use rooms. Interesting. Fantastic. Woo! Man, this is epic. We'll talk about this in Zoom when I get back. Oh, there's another one over there. Look at this place. Can you imagine 5,000 Native Americans roaming around here, and then they all just said, hey, enough is enough. Let's head south, warmer weather. All right, another, look at this. Modern day Pueblo doing their dances. And here is religion. That plaza, they can tell, was not for living, and it was big, and it never had a roof. So it was probably for ceremonies, dances, religious things. And then next to it, they speculate, historians who can only speculate, that maybe the caretakers of the temple, they're calling it, lived there. Amazing. All right, second to last stop. Look at all those people over there. Look at that. That's a vulture. We have those vultures right there in California. Is he going to come by us? Hear anything? Different religions that we study. Remember, we're studying monotheism, which really dove into that a little bit with Hebrew and Christianity. And then we have polytheism with the Greek gods. We're going to study Hinduism coming up. And the Native Americans had their own very special religions. Spirits and eagles, like the one flying there, actually that is a vulture. And even trees and the world and Mother Earth. So there's different kind of spiritualities going on with Native Americans. And just a powerful place to be out here in nature. Let's go take a look at one of their temples. So here is a temple. The reason they think this is a temple is there's no roof on it. The mystery of the Sun Temple. Never-ending source of speculation for scholars and visitors alike. It was built sometime in the 1200s, so that's pretty late, and was part of the community of cliff dwellings that surrounded it. Its D-shaped outline, no evidence of roofing, few doors and household artifacts, and massive architecture is unlike anything else. Oh, here's the, so that's primary source. We're like historians looking at it. There's your secondary. There's your view from above. And look at that. Close-up aerial view. There's the canyon. Pretty cool. D-shaped structure. So take a look at that thing. Get your own aerial view. So they're not sure about this. A little bit of a mystery on this one. All right, guys. Last stop. Let's do this. All right, so there we have it. Another massive cliff dwelling. And to put it in perspective, that's that canyon. Remember, we were looking down that canyon just now. We were on the other side, and here's this kind of temple, church type structure right in the middle of all of the dwellings. So it kind of makes sense they would come in here to gather. All right, guys. Well, been good visiting with you over spring break. We will see you guys next week when we dive into a science week, ecology, learning about how to protect our earth, how to have renewable energy, things like that. Things that I think the Native Americans and Pueblo people would really enjoy because they always appreciated the earth as something that we can take from, but we must give back to, and it must be a reciprocal relationship. Like all the systems we study this year, one of our themes. All right, have a great spring break. Time to go mountain biking. All right, I don't think we tapped into politics, which is Governmental Center. Several features suggest it was an important gathering place, perhaps an administrative or governmental center for their society. This is kind of a close-up of it. And now we have a little religion because they believe in spirits. Even though we physically moved away, the spirits of our ancestors are still here. If you stop for a minute and listen, you can hear the children laughing and the women talking. So once again, our theme this year as we study history, which is speculative. History, we have to figure things out because we were not there. Science, which we can do a little more hard testing on. And then religion and faith of the different cultures of ancient civilizations. Pretty cool. All right, Bears. Hope you're having a great spring break. I'm not sure if this will post before we're done with spring break or not, but I am at Mesa Verde near Durango, Colorado, and Cortez, Colorado. Coming here to explore the Native American cliff dwellings. Very famous place. So let's do this Mesa Verde virtual field trip with Mr. Downs.